Stop me.
I need to bring them in so I can see them. Yes. Okay. Hi. How are you gentlemen today? Can you hear me fine?
Can hear you just good. How are you, Dr. Steele?
I am well. I am well. I thank you all so very much for being patient with us with technical difficulties this morning. My assistant is away, but I do have Miss Akira that's here, and she has expertise in IT as well as she's bilingual in several languages, yeah, which is including German. So she's very knowledgeable, and I thank God for her. But I want to jump right in with Shepherd Consulting Group. That's who you are, correct?
Absolutely. My name is Michael Shepard. I am the founder and chief operating officer of Shepard Consulting Group, which is a bookkeeping, accounting, and management consulting firm.
Okay. An accounting firm. So you do taxes and things like that, CPA work.
Yes, ma'am. I do taxes, back taxes, good, bad, the ugly. That's my
Oh, good.
lane.
So good. This is awesome. And even on a personal level. So this is good stuff to know. I didn't realize that you were, I knew the consulting side, and of course that is connected with agriculture. You and the other person that's on with us, Mr. Jimmie, was it Jimmie B. Strong? Is it?
That's correct.
All right, Mr. Jimmie, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I certainly do, and especially as it relates to agriculture. So I'm a country boy from the Mississippi Delta. So I grew up learning how to count with my granddad saying throw 3 beans in this hole and throw 4 butter beans in that one to see if I knew what I was doing. Second
Okay.
playing butter beans, picking grains, like for real country boy stuff. And I run a company called The Advisory Incorporated. I'm a lawyer by trade. Took a whole lot of business law courses at Harvard Law School to really learn how to represent us and work for us.
Right.
And had the unbelievable opportunity this past year to purchase the first Black-owned rice production facility in the country with the Bridgeforth and Haney families, 2 of our 3 largest Black row crop farming families in the country. And I'm thrilled to be here with you guys today. Thanks to my good brother Michael, my good Newt, my good fraternity brother and good friend of the day.
Well, this is phenomenal. Well, congratulations on being that top-notch Black farmer that's leading the way for the rest of us. When I say the rest of us, specifically the next generation. It's always refreshing to see young people or our people in a leadership position that could actually reach back, or our children are able to see someone that look like them, to go down the proper agriculture education road, if you will, and as well as coupling it back on the ground level with the crops and so forth and so on. I'm going to get right into it. I'm not very formal, but I am formal because I'm a woman, so the prissy side will come out in me. I want to talk about who all you serve. I want to talk about what farmers, how you would help serve farmers that have issues with their taxes, as well as making sure 1099 contract employees. That's something that I noticed with or within the agriculture industry that people are not familiar with. Understanding that 1099 and what happens when you're 1099. What's the responsibility of the person being paid? Still get some feedback. So,
Sure, absolutely. So, specifically, the IRS requires any employer that
mhm,
pays somebody over the amount of $600
mhm,
to be issued what is called a 1099.
mhm,
Essentially, what that is an informal contract stating that you agree to provide services in exchange for the dollar amount that's going to be listed on your 1099. The IRS requires the employers to have this issued out to the 1099 contractors by the 31st of January of every year.
mhm,
So when you think about a farming employer, I know that there's several different workers, working with the crops and things of that nature. I think
mhm,
it's critical to have an accountant such as myself to help and assist with getting those contractors issue those 1099s, on time, but also
mhm,
making sure that that list of current contractors is kept somewhere safely and it's updated on a continual basis so you don't run into any type of IRS complications or issues. I'll touch briefly on the difference in an employee and why it's, important to have payroll systems set up that
mhm,
integrate sort of with your HR when it comes to your tax concerns, because an employee essentially means that you're running a payroll, some sort of
mhm,
payroll provider, QuickBooks, check systems, ADP. There's several out there, but the importance of that is on a quarterly basis, you want to make sure that you're paying the estimated payroll tax that the
mhm,
IRS will assume you owe based on
mhm,
the wages that you pay your employees. So what happens is business owners get into IRS complications because you do what is called owner's draw. There
mhm,
really is no such thing as an owner's draw, right? What you're essentially doing is avoiding the tax obligation that you're supposed to pay by kicking it
mhm,
down the road, right? And so there's benefits to running payroll as a business owner. You get to deduct the payroll taxes, as well as deduct contributions that you can set up to match yourself as an employee of your business, which is called the 401k and pre-tax plan and simple IRA pre-tax plans that reduce your tax liability. So, in a nutshell, I would say that not just 1099s are important, but also exploring whether or not you want to have employees, right, and reap
mhm.
those tax benefits as you run your business.
Okay, I'm going to use our organization as an example because we're a nonprofit 501c3. I do
Hmm.
1099 to give my contractors slash employees. I do this so that they do not get taxes taken out every week when I pay them. The issue that I noticed that a lot of them should be concerned with, because I am nonprofit, I absorb all that and I get an exemption. But then their responsibility, when it's tax time and they have this 1099, they're like, what do we do? I said, you have to file it. You got this money, you didn't pay taxes during the year, so now you're going to have to pay them or write it off some because you're a contract. Am I correct? Talk to me about
Essentially, that's correct. So when a worker is paid, and it's not via payroll method, if it's over the amount of $600,
that. Mhm.
the IRS will expect some sort of employment taxes on those earnings, on that revenue, right?
Right.
So what you can do though, as the owner of the nonprofit, is you can help those contractors set up some sort of pre-tax plan,
Okay.
right? So where they can contribute their wages into that plan, and that way the tax liability won't be so great at the end of the year.
Okay, so you're definitely someone that I want to talk to offline personally, and to hire you to for our company to take care of those because I want to deal with
Okay.
that. And our HR person is
Yeah.
here, so this is absolutely perfect. She just walked in, so she handles that and works with our system that actually
Awesome.
clocks and keeps up with the time. So, and now moving to the attorney, which we need you also. Land retention, understanding an LLC, opposed to a nonprofit. I get a lot of questions. Excuse me, I am like the allergy queen here in Oklahoma. That's where I'm located. So, and I didn't get to run in and get my allergy shots, which I usually do on Wednesdays. So, excuse my raspy voice, but I do want to talk to you about LLCs opposed to nonprofits because a lot of farmers, especially minority farmers, they constantly contact me regarding how do I get a grant? How do I get a grant? They don't want a loan, but and I'm very, very honest with them, and I let them know as an LLC or an individual farmer, there are not very many grants out there for you. Period. Our organization is working to become a grant provider because of some positions that we've actually have ourselves in and been named the #1 nonprofit minority organization in the world. So we are now in a position and working on some legislation with the White House and others and Congress people to make that happen to become the first Black congressional charter organization ever in America's history. So I will be hiring you guys. So let's talk to us about how these farmers, how can they leverage some money as an LLC? We know that they could sell their products, so forth and so on, but what type of advice would you give a farmer like yourself who's stepped into a huge position as a rice producer?
So you want to think of yourself as a lender and not a borrower, as a grantor and not a grantee, as a provider more than a recipient. And when you start thinking in that way, you start thinking about organizations like this. And in particular, I would tell you to connect with a young lady named Kelly Burden, Dr. Kelly Burden with Black Innovation Alliance. I created Black Innovation Alliance in 2019. Last year, they created the Congressional Black Caucus on Innovation. And one area of innovation that we have to start making sure we see as innovation is agriculture innovation. Exactly. We have to start seeing ourselves as innovators, technologists, and joining forces with groups like that who will think about us thinking about us and the grants that we have. Kind of like you said, we want to get this money and we want to become a grant provider. So that way when you come, we tell you our criteria. We tell you how you give back to this ecosystem and what benefits us and what we need and what we're issuing a grant for, because it's work that we need to create more ability to issue more of the same, to employ more people, to advance our causes. Now, as it relates to the legal distinction, understand that an LLC, a limited liability company, is by nature a for-profit entity. A nonprofit can be created at a state level. However, but what we're thinking about is not that state level nonprofit corporation. If you go to your state, you're thinking about what happens when I file what's called a 1023 application with the IRS to receive an exemption under Internal Revenue Code Section 501c3 or some other section specific to a trade association, a social group, or another agriculture organization. So when we think about getting that tax exemption, we have to be careful not to think of a tax exemption as a way to make money. Tax exemption is a way to do good, is a way to get something to solve a problem, to create or advance the cause of the group or a group. You make money with that LLC. You make money with that corporation. You make money with that partnership. You make money with that entity. With the nonprofit, you create infrastructure. You
Right.
create opportunity. And sometimes you get so good at it that you have enough money for executive level salaries and salaries of subordinates and salaries of people to actually execute and carry out the work. But understand, if you want to get some money, come to me talking about forming a company, an LLC, a corporation.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll tell you all the numerous ways to find some contracts and some ways to work, people to work for, and things to do. And we'll fight that battle. But if you want to do some good, not necessarily make some money first, but do some good first, that's when you go the nonprofit route first.
That is exactly right. When you say, I want you to go back on that contract side, because again, our goal is to get farmers to come to you all, because they need to understand, they need to be with professionals like both of you. And that's where a lot of our farmers and young beginning farmers, they don't understand that business structure. You have to hire, or I mean, maybe just partner with you someone. I mean, first thing when people even say hire, they get so scared, but we don't have any money. You know, we're trying to come up. So I want to talk to us about contracts, because that people don't realize, farmers don't realize they can get into contracts and make money.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
And let's also address a mindset issue. Don't have a mindset of scarcity. Often I find that farmers are a faith-based community. And show me a faith that preaches scarcity, and I'll show you someone who read it wrong.
That's right.
So if the thing that you're most connected to preaches abundance and preaches that your blessings are vertical like the rain and not horizontal like people, you should worry less about scarcity and think more about the gift that you have, the anointing that you have, the thing that you do better than anyone else without trying. And you let that be your guide, and people will chase you. And when they chase you, you come to someone like me and I say, this is how we make sure you get a fair deal for deploying your anointing. If your anointing is in farming and you come to me and I'll say, okay, what did they ask you for? They asked you for a good. They asked you for a deliverable. Well, how much do they want? When do they want it? What conditions might prevent you from being able to deliver that thing in that way, at that weight, on time? Let's add certain contingencies. Let's add certain adjustments. Let's talk about when communication timelines need to happen. And let's put all this in a document. Think about it, less of this somewhat intimidating word contract and more of what is our arrangement that we want on paper, because we know that there is nothing better in life than a good understanding.
There's nothing. You say you're an attorney. Now, you sure you're not a preacher? Because you got us over here like, we over here getting chills and about to shout. Because I'm like, this brother is preaching to us. So, yeah, right. I'm like, this is a way, honey. Because that, you are right on target. And again, this is a faith-based organization. And I understand when you say you got to step out there. Our organization will be 15 years old next month. And we're doing our annual conference here. And with the hitters that we have coming forward, which I do want to talk to you about, and both of you about some partnerships that we have in place internationally, as well as even here on professional levels with NFL players, NBA players, as well as WNBA players that are some of my chapter leaders. So it's a bigger picture. It's a bigger cause. And that's what I tell people when God joined us together, because I really didn't even know who you guys were. I mean, my assistant does all the arranging and what have you. But now I see how it's all coming together with just from conversations I had this morning, over the weekend, Martin Luther King Day, and then to have a CPA or accounting firm and an attorney right here. I'm like, okay, God, you're doing something. So
and we're both in Memphis.
Okay, so I have chapter leaders there. This is phenomenal. So I want to go back to the CPA to make sure that our farmers understand how important it is when you need to file your business paperwork, as far as being a farmer, the Schedule F, making sure all those things are in line, as well as extensions if they need it. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So April 15th is the deadline for business taxes, but Me and my firm, we try to get everything done by the middle of March. The earlier, the
Okay.
better, right?
Yes.
Because you always have something in business that may put off the actual numbers that need to be totaled up for your Schedule F. The payroll amounts need to be accurately accounted for, as well as accruals. If you're operating a sort of booking system, you will have an accrual account that needs to be accurate. So April 15th is the rule of thumb for your business taxes. But before that, let's backstep a little bit. You want to have a good set of books in your business
Bingo.
because before you go to a phenomenal transactional attorney such as Jimmie, right? Because he can get you the capital, you want to
Mhm.
make sure that you have your projections and your books in order. So when you go to this lender, he's able to fight for you and he's able to put those arrangements together, right? So
Right.
it's critical to start off the right way with your farming business. And that would first be choosing the correct entity. And then, second, setting up that business bank account as well as your accounting and bookkeeping systems.
And the bookkeeping systems, when you say
Mhm.
that, talk to us about keeping your receipts. What type, just give me like three major receipts that you need to keep as a farmer. Because that again,
Absolutely.
I get those questions a lot too.
Yes, so goods and services. So the product that you're purchasing, that needs to be a critical receipt kept. I would say
Mhm,
PP&E, so the equipment that you're using to operate in your farming on a day-to-day basis, would be critical. And
mhm,
then the last thing would be the supply. So the tools, the day-to-day tools that you need to actually bring in the crops, those all need to be kept and a secure place. But typically, when you have your business banking and payroll, QuickBooks set up, or
mhm,
your transactions set up through your business bank account, I can go in and create a chart of accounts that
mhm,
auto accumulates each of your business transaction to a certain account. So it makes the receipt keeping rudimentary. It goes away because once I see the transaction from Home Depot or Lowe's or
mhm,
Tractor Supply, for example, where you get your farming equipment and goods and supplies, you just say, hey, Michael, that was for XY product,
mhm,
for the business, no problem. It's already categorized and you're good to go. Versus if you're not doing the month to month work as far as
mhm.
accounting for your transactions, this becomes a step at the end of the year that accountants have to go through, and the prices are really high to do, the cleanup and assurance work. And we want to avoid that. We want to start off on the good foot and get everything in order.
Okay. So, then I'm still going back to those contractors, 1099s. So say
Mhm.
these 1099 contractors, they don't have money to pay the IRS. Is there a way they could, as an individual contractor, do the write-offs and write-offs to offset some of the taxes they didn't pay? This may be an illegal
It's
question,
a
but I have to ask.
It's not an illegal question, but it's a very interesting question in that so if I would say if you're a contractor and you're not W-2 and you're earning more than 50,000 from a
Mhm,
particular organization,
mhm,
incorporate yourself. Call Jimmie and get a LLC set up. That way the 1099 income that you get, that's categorized as sales, right?
mhm.
And then you get into being able to write off expenses it takes for you to earn those sales. Does that make sense?
Most definitely it does. Become an LLC so you can have those expenses absorbed with that corporation, if you will, that LLC, that
Absolutely.
limited liability corporation. Now, will
Mhm.
they be able to receive any? Because most of my clients or my people, I should say contractors, they're lower income people. They don't have, they're trying to get some money at the end of the year, at tax time, like most underserved people do. they're looking for some dependents or something. You know how they do. How do they say the earned credit for children? You guys know the lingo. That's not my lane. Talk to me about some plants. Okay,
Right.
so talk to me. What should they do?
So as far as reducing your tax liability,
Mhm,
there's three things that I recommend that you can do that are very simple. Set up
mhm,
a pre-tax retirement plan. If your employer is not providing one, Fidelity is a very good company, been around forever. You know, they offer very easy online setup with the simple IRA, the 401k plans, and those are pre-tax, right?
mhm,
Um, you can start an HSA, right? That's called a health savings account, and that's a pre-tax plan. And so if you have any
mhm,
type of medical issues or concerns later on down the line, you can simply, every time you get paid, chunk some money into that plan. I think there's a $7,500 yearly cap. Depends on the
mhm,
IRS guidelines every year, but it's somewhere around that number. But you can max that out, and when it comes time to file your actual 1040, that can
mhm,
be a deduction to reduce your taxable income, right? And then the third one, if you're 1099, is you can increase your expenses as a business. So you can purchase a vehicle, you can write
mhm.
off vehicles under Section 179. If you lease the vehicle, you can write off the lease payments. So there's
Mhm.
different avenues and ways we can explore reducing your taxable income that are all legal.
Awesome. So we need you all to come to our conference next month. Our national conference is here on February 21st and 22nd at Oklahoma City University Business School. We're having it there, and then at the same time, we're going to have you could have like a booth as well as be a speaker because we need your expertise, especially dealing with minority farmers or underserved farmers. That this is something that is so needed. There's a question that someone has. You want to go ahead and yeah, she's going to pull it up, and it's addressed to you all. Let's see what it says. Can you guys read it on your side?
So should the 1099 be submitted at the completion of the work, ongoing renovation, or when the payment is submitted? So I would submit this at the completion of work,
Yes.
um, simply because you don't want to get into the realm of actually underreporting, right? The revenue that you have to pay for your product or service.
Mhm.
Because then you may have to issue two 1099s, and that creates additional work for your accountant or CPA, and that
Mhm.
creates additional expenses for you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, that was good to know. So I'll make sure when they leave me, here's your 1099. We're finished. Right? That's the best way. Because like right now, I haven't been doing that. I mean, right now I'm trying to get them out before the 31st. The employees that are not, or the contractors that are no longer here. Going back to our rice producer, talk to us about your whole operation as being the only minority or the Black rice. Well, I don't know any other minorities that's really other than Asian. Speak
So,
to us about
so,
that.
so I definitely have to make sure I give credit where credit is due. I'm
Okay.
just the lawyer. I
Okay.
just did the document to purchase the business from the Arkansas Development Finance Corporation. So
Okay.
I did the purchase and sale agreement, and I represent the two families that run it. So the
Okay.
Bridgeforth family out of Alabama and the Haney
Mhm.
family out of Virginia and Maryland, they
Okay.
came together to buy this facility. It was built for about $30 million by Argentinian investors who thought they would
Wow.
get into the rice game in the United
Mhm.
States, and obviously rice country is Arkansas. So they spent all this money in Pine Bluff, could not run it. Pandemic hit them, and
Mhm.
they had to abandon a ton of infrastructure. and the state of Arkansas ended up owning it. So we bought it for pennies from the state of Arkansas. Well, I mean, a lot of pennies, but in terms of its value, 30 million, less than 5. So to get something 30 million worth of value, less than 5, and to put a few million into it and be able to stand up that full operation has been great. And operating has been, or watching the operations has been interesting, because you have to have a whole different type of staff for rice than you might have for soybeans or corn or other types of row crops, cotton. It's a different staff. It's a different sales team. It's a different management. It's a different type of urgency for when you get it in the ground and when you get it out. It's a different understanding of what can I do with the rice hulls, because some people use them in gasification to produce energy. Like what can't I sell of this crop, and how do I create these sales networks? What can I do internationally when Mexico has a crisis and needs more grain? How do I get involved in doing all that I did in my space for decades, trying to get up to speed and compete with people who have been doing this thing that they're doing for centuries? So it has been a lot of fun seeing those of us who were once out of that industry jump in and really do a good job catching up very fast.
And I definitely would love to have their information, because we need to interview those wonderful people, that farmers, and that just stepped out and said, we're going to do this, because we do. I mean, rice is a huge commodity all over the globe. I mean, wherever you go in the world, and there's going to be a dish usually with rice. So that's huge. So, attorney, also, if one of our, how would I say? I want to phrase this correctly. Let me just rephrase it all together. Do you all work with the USDA at all?
So I do not work directly with the USDA to the extent that someone needed to put together any type of government contracting plan or program. I have worked in the area of government contracting for several years. I did all the presentations for my state's procurement technical assistance centers, PTAC, for a number of years, teaching at all the cities across my state on how to, like, secure a government contract. And I also happen to represent someone who has sued the USDA twice and won.
You said that. I'm glad you brought that out, because I get a lot of, inquiries on that, because being a minority, there are definitely some differences in the way things are handled for minority farmers. Okay.
And sometimes they're objectively wrong.
Yeah. Most definitely.
It's tough, because when you sue, you have to understand you have to be ready, because you get blocked from all of their programming forever, from all of their funding, from all those things that the bank would have been able to lend to you. The bank can't lend that to you anymore. And I've seen really, really bad situations. I've seen situations where everyone lines up to get their loan, and 1 year the loan for you just doesn't come through, or it gets delayed year after year after year, so that your crop gets out the ground just a little bit later and a little bit later and a little bit later. And now you just got to sell your land, or you owe too many people too much, or you just don't get your loan because we offered you this money to buy your land because you sit in the middle of us and you wouldn't sell it. So we'll think of other ways to get it out you. And even when you sue and you win and you prove that those things were wrong, it's not like you get an exemption to get back into the category of person who can borrow again. So you have to be ready when you pursue these avenues.
Most definitely. But do you think that's something constitutionally we need to work on? Because I don't think that is remotely fair that you are blocked forever for someone's wrongdoing, or some big, huge agencies that's supposed to be, equity and inclusion for everyone, if you will. Do you think that's something constitutionally or congressionally we need to address?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a documentary about land loss that was published last year and is starting to circulate this year. And I think there is a case that will come out of it. There are lawyers from John Deere, in particular, their chief administrative officer, Mark Howes, and his second in command, I like to call him, Andres, I forget Andres' last name, but they are going to be leading the charge. And John Deere is actually supportive of them leading the charge on this issue.
Oh, this is good to know. Okay. So when we get ready for our hearing, we will be calling you. We will be calling you because there are some inequities that I know for sure that our organization, just as a minority women's organization, that if I had blonde hair and blue eyes, it would look different as far as equity and inclusion of different fundings that has been provided from the White House specifically for minorities. I'm sure you've heard, I mean, it's all over everywhere. And they went to big corporations. That, how fair is that? You know, that it was specifically set aside for socially disadvantaged farmers, as they like to call us. And it's whatever. And I kind of tinker back and forth on that, but they kind of branded that in me, no pun intended, as far as that language, socially disadvantaged farmers. There was certain funding that came down, huge fundings that came down twice from the White House for us through the rescue plan. And, you know, very few of us, and actually it was told to me that only 77 or 70 something, I should say, minority farmers benefited, where there were 3 large corporations got more than any of all of the 77 plus organizations, minority. That's not fair. And these are the type of things that we need to get, and we're working on trying to get a hearing as well as a meeting with President Biden and the White House Policy Council.
And I think we have to, there are certain corrective measures we can take that are going to be tough, right?
Yeah.
Like the conversation we just had about 1099s, we have to take the tough step of not having that conversation and of making these people true W-2 employees.
Okay. Well, we have the funding, but when you're dealing with, you know,
it's the chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
It's like, because when they get the funding, they say, okay, who has the most employees? And see, when you already knew on the front end to make it look like you had 1,000 and you get a certain number per employee who's classified as W-2, and then sometimes they'll take it another step and they'll say who's classified as W-2 and receives benefits offered to those with the company, and those benefits include this. And then you have all numbers. So, but I've had to play this game enough to know the cheapest healthcare plans and who offers them and who will give them to us cheaper than we could even get in the private market, and to know who has the cheapest payroll services, and to know how to get certain funding on the front end connected to organizing yourself the right way. And then you have a bit of float to make it to that tax refund when you get the money back anyway, if you have a smart man like Michael Shepard preparing it for you.
Got it. I'm a smart woman, so I understand what you're saying, and I need to hire you all immediately. Just across the board, I would tell anyone that's out there that's trying to run any business in agriculture, these gentlemen, we need to connect with them. Because again, it's so hard automatically when they see our grant. When I've gone to CPAs, and I could honestly say, when they see the pennies that we get, you know, they see a few $100,000 for 3 years. And, you know, once you divide that through, like myself, 77 chapters trying to cover, 20 overseas, that's no money. And operate every day. Every day. And I have to have people here on the grounds taking care of the community gardens. I have to have someone making sure that the phones and stuff are working correctly. IT people. This is where we are caught, or as you can say, chicken and egg game that is played with us. However, that's where we want to make sure we hire you all, because you're the experts that we could trust. And my point was, when I show my the organization taxes, they want to take my head off. I had one lady tell me, we charge 1,800 for a 990. Now I'm giving you everything because I mean my stuff is great. So everything is laid out, category, personnel, travel, fringe benefit, everything is laid out for you. So it's real easy, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I went to someone else, which didn't look like you and I. He was a Caucasian guy, $600. Done. Professionally packaged up nicely. IRS loved it. So these are some of the issues that I'm just also laying on the table as far as being a minority businesswoman, that we run across from just our own professionals. Like professionals like you all that know the business, and I always want to always work with minority businesses, but it is extremely hard sometimes. But with not in your case, but see, you're very professional, and we want to make sure that the information gets out there, and we promote your business, and we all try to partner some way. And I would, whoever's on, and we stream live. Like I said, right now we're streaming live, but the platform we'll take and promote it all month, as well as hopefully you could come into Oklahoma to the the national conference, which is our 15-year anniversary as well. We celebrate it next month. And there will be like my other partners that will be here from all over the world, that either via Zoom or in person via Zoom. So
okay.
So are there any more questions you guys see over there? So back to CPA. What do you guys have? I want to give you guys the final words to speak to the people, make sure they understand. I think we did an excellent job by drilling down on everyday issues that we have and how important it is to get ourselves positioned professionally and correctly to be able to participate and be prosperous and sustainable in the agriculture industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So final words of encouragement.
So I'll say thank you for having me, Dr. Steele. To the potential clients out there, I am available. If you can't reach me by phone, it's not on, intentional. I'm probably working. So give me an email and I'll be in touch with you within 48 hours, guaranteed. Aside from just the accounting and business consulting, I can consult on you with your personal credit. I know in the past that has been a big barrier for minorities in obtaining any type of funding. And so I can give you the correct guidance on, what to do in that arena as well. You can do it, have confidence in yourself, have faith in your business, have a can-do win attitude, and keep pushing forward.
That's right. Our babies need that. Leave something here for them. Mr. Shepherd?
So I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. Thank Michael for telling me about this organization. I'm so proud to be a part of this organization. During that conference, maybe we can put together some type of legal clinic where people can ask their questions or submit their questions on the front end and get some free legal advice or something. I just want you to challenge you to be the most confident, prepared, tenacious version of you. Sister Dr. Tammy said I'm preaching a little bit, so I want to preach on that one. I want to encourage you to believe bigger and pursue more and trust yourself more and take bigger chances and reach for, things that don't appear easily achievable. Right. Try to do something difficult and get yourself out your comfort zone. Move into a position of servant leadership where you start doing some things for some people that you haven't even done for yourself. Start seeing what you can push out and do for others and watch what he does for you.
I'm a witness, as they say. I am a witness. It's full circle. It's over and beyond expectations. Gosh, I'm just blown away, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to meet you all, even if it's virtual. I know I'll meet you soon in person. I do want to do the last closing to make sure people understand our organization is highly partnered with the USDA. When I say that, that's how we're on the show. I just innovatively came up with a different way to outreach and provide technical services. Yes, I have to have a conference, as you can see, we're having one, but I found that that was not, it was not productive or conducive to our audience. A conference is just what it is. It's just a short 2 or 3 day window. They get a lot of information. I mean, it's great to hear the information, but ultimately, I mean, people do not follow all the way through just from a conference, if that makes sense. By having such a platform, we're able to, people can go back and forth, they can connect with us, they can connect back with you all, and it's something that's sitting there forever on our YouTube channel. They could contact you, and then again, we're working together to build a coalition of people that could help, professionals. We're like taking it to a different level where we're trying to connect the whole globe to minority farmers, what they're doing. So I say that to close, and as I always do, and I always like to say, again, thank you, and it's a great day in ag to make that bag. So guys, thank you again. I want to check one more time with my IT person. Any questions? I don't want to close out. No questions? Just a nice comments? No. Okay, so we are at the end. Do you all have any final words? Is that it?
Thank you again, Dr. Steele and team. My brother Jimmie, thanks for joining, man, and taking the time. And this is a phenomenal organization. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so very much. We need brothers like you behind us. I will be in touch soon. Thank you again. You guys have a blessed day. And thank you all who tuned in with us today. Thank you.
Stop.